What if the strongest person in the room is the one who's breaking the most quietly? That's the secret of Onyx Storm. This isn't just another viral romantasy. This isn't about dragons and dominance and enemies to lovers tension. This is about a girl who led while fractured, loved while haunted, and kept breathing when silence would have been easier. And if you've ever held yourself together just long enough to get through the day, this book feels like someone finally saw that. Let's begin. Violet isn't rising, she's rebuilding. We're used to seeing fantasy heroines glow up into power, but Violet doesn't glow in Onyx Storm. She shakes, her bones remember pain. Her instincts flinch before her lips do. She's learning to walk again, not just literally, but emotionally, and that's why this book hits so many readers so deeply. Because Violet isn't a symbol of victory. She's a symbol of exhaustion that refuses to give up. She's a leader who's terrified of leading people to death. She's a fighter who doesn't want to fight anymore. She's someone who has already lost too much and still stands up, because if she doesn't, more people will fall. It's not a power fantasy, it's a truth fantasy, because so many of us are still showing up in lives we haven't had time to recover from. We're still functioning after heartbreak, after stress, after fear, and we don't have the luxury to pause. Violet doesn't either. But in this book, we see what it costs her. And that honesty, that's what made this book matter. Grief doesn't wait for permission. There are deaths in this book, some loud, some quiet, some expected, some unfair. But none of them leave Violet untouched. And that's the difference. This isn't a plotline where death is used to move the story forward. This is a story where death rewrites the characters. Violet doesn't just bury people, she buries parts of herself with them. Trust, innocence, hope. And the grief isn't always poetic. Sometimes it's awkward, sometimes it's angry, sometimes it shows up in the wrong moment and wrecks everything. And that's real. That's what grief does. It doesn't schedule itself, it doesn't respect timing. It shows up mid-sentence, mid-strategy, mid-love. And Violet, she doesn't run from it. She carries it, she leads with it, she stumbles under it, she lets it change her. Because in the real world, grief doesn't make you wise. It makes you raw. It makes you unsure. It makes you start doubting the very things you once knew for certain. And that's Violet in this book. She's not sure what's right anymore, not sure who to trust, not sure how many more losses she can take, and yet she still moves. And that's not weakness. That's courage in its most silent form. The romance isn't escapism, it's exhaustion. Let's talk about Xaden. Let's talk about how love looks when both people are drowning. This relationship isn't about completion. It's not about healing each other. It's about surviving next to someone without losing yourself. And that's so rare to see in fantasy. They're both deeply injured, both emotionally flooded, both holding secrets they don't want to, because the truth is heavier than silence, and that makes their love more fragile and more believable. Because love in this book isn't a reward, it's a question mark. Can someone still love you when you're not well? Can you love someone back when you're trying not to disappear? Can you choose them without using them to escape yourself? This relationship has stakes, not just external, but internal. It shows how easy it is to misunderstand each other when pain is too loud to translate. And it shows that love doesn't always mean fixing someone. Sometimes it just means staying, even when you don't know how to help, even when you don't know if it's working, even when it hurts. Because sometimes what keeps people close isn't peace. It's the ache of not wanting to be alone in your chaos. Taryn and Andarna, inner strength with wings. You can't talk about Onyx Storm without talking about the dragons, but here's what makes them more than creatures. Taryn is not just gruff commentary and firepower. He's Violet's emotional compass. He's the one who reminds her who she is when she forgets. He's wisdom wrapped in storm clouds. Andarna, she's growth. She's fear wrapped in curiosity. She mirrors Violet's uncertainty and brilliance. Together, they reflect two sides of Violet's inner world. Taryn is the part of her that remembers. Andarna is the part of her that hopes. Their presence isn't just narrative convenience, it's narrative balance. When Violet is at war with herself, they bring clarity. But when she doubts her strength, they remind her it's not about perfection, it's about persistence. These dragons are more than bonded creatures. They're her soul reminders, and when they roar, it isn't for drama. It's to remind her you're still here. Everyone is a mirror and a risk. There's no character in this book who exists without pressure. Mira, Dane, Rhiannon, Liam's memory, Imogen. Each one of them is a layer in Violet's story and in her internal tug of war. Mira wants to protect, but ends up controlling. Dane wants to do right, but his guilt makes him untrustworthy. Rhiannon wants truth, but trust comes at a price. And even in absence, Liam's memory is a presence. Pressure point. These relationships are not clean. They're not stable, but they're human. And Violet's navigation of them shows that leadership doesn't just mean giving orders. It means carrying the cost of relationships that used to be safe. Because when you grow, not everyone grows with you. Some people cling to who you were because that version didn't threaten their comfort. And some people leave, not out of betrayal, but because they don't know how to hold space for your pain. And Onyx Storm lets those shifts breathe. There's no lesson learned montage. There's just Violet choosing who she keeps, who she distances from, and who she lets herself grieve. Because sometimes losing someone isn't betrayal. It's just change, the weight of knowing. Violet has power now, not just through dragons, not just through title. She has information, secrets, strategy, foresight, and that makes her dangerous, but also isolated. Because when you're the one who sees the whole board, you carry the heaviness of every piece that moves. People look to her for answers, but she's not sure what's right anymore. Because what do you do when the only way to protect someone is to keep them in the dark? And what if the truth hurts more than the lie? Violet in this book is not just a soldier. She's a strategist, a symbol, a shield. And it wears on her, not because she doubts her mind, but because she doesn't want to become the kind of person who sacrifices hearts to win wars. And so she hesitates, she struggles, she carries the weight of leadership, not like a crown, but like a boulder. And we feel that because all of us, in some way, know what it means to carry knowledge we can't unknow, to see things we wish we hadn't, to lead when no one else will step up. Even when we're not sure we're the right person for the job. Why this book feels so personal. It would have been easy to make Onyx Storm about plot, about twists, betrayals, power shifts, and yes, it has all of that, but that's not why people are rereading it. That's not why it's become a touchstone for so many. It's because this book gave people permission to be tired, permission to grieve things no one else understands, permission to lead without always knowing where you're going. This book speaks to the version of us that's been holding everything together and doesn't know how much longer we can. It speaks to the reader who doesn't want to be rescued, just understood. And that's rare. It doesn't ask you to escape your life. It just offers you a story where your quiet pain is normal, honored, even powerful. Why it went viral. Yes, the dragons are epic. Yes, the romance is magnetic. Yes, the plot is full of fire and blood and shadow. But the real reason Onyx Storm went viral, because it whispered what so many people have been too tired to say out loud. I'm not okay, but I'm still trying. It's a book that doesn't punish vulnerability, that doesn't force healing, that doesn't give you a tidy ending wrapped in shiny resolution. It gives you honesty, messy, aching, stubborn honesty. And in a world that constantly pushes speed, perfection, productivity, this book pauses. It says, you're allowed to feel like this. You're allowed to break. You're allowed to want more than just surviving. And that kind of message, people don't forget it. The ending doesn't heal you, but it holds you. No spoilers here. But what I'll say is this. The end of Onyx Storm doesn't tie a bow. It holds your hand. It doesn't fix the characters. It doesn't pretend they're done growing. It doesn't give you the peace you want, but it gives you the permission to come back to yourself. That's what makes this a comfort book for so many. Not because it's light, but because it's honest. It lets you sit with your shadows and reminds you they're not all enemies. Some of them are just parts of you, waiting to be understood. Final words. Onyx Storm doesn't try to inspire you. It tries to sit with you, to witness you, to remind you that your scars don't disqualify you. They qualify you for leadership, for love, for hope, not someday. Now, if this reflection gave you something real, subscribe. You're not alone in how you feel and not here. And if this book touched you, let's talk about it.